My daughter-in-law threw a glass of wine in my face, so I sold the house she thought was hers, took everything back, and never returned. Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe, hit the hype button, and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? The wine was a 2019 Napa Cab. Expensive, probably $60 a bottle. I know because I paid for it. Just like I paid for everything else on that table at the Cottonwood Room, the steaks, the sides, the appetizers they ordered before I arrived. The reservation was under my name too, because Kyle's credit cards have a habit of getting declined at the worst possible times. I should have seen it coming. Should have read the room when I walked in and saw Quinn's smile, that sharp, practiced influencer smile she uses when she's about to say something cruel and call it keeping it real. She was wearing a white silk blouse that probably cost more than most people's car payments. Her nails were fresh, long, sharply shaped, painted a deep, dried red shade, the kind of nails that have never cleaned a stall or fixed a fence. The Cottonwood Room was the kind of place where ranchers took their wives on anniversaries and business deals got closed over whiskey, dark wood paneling, soft lighting, cloth napkins that actually stayed on your lap. The tables were spaced far enough apart that you could have a private conversation, but close enough that everyone could see everyone else. Status mattered here. Being seen mattered. Kyle sat beside Quinn, phone in hand, not looking at me. He'd been avoiding eye contact for weeks. That was fine. I'd gotten used to being invisible in my own son's life. He was wearing a button-down shirt I'd bought him last Christmas, the tags probably still in the garbage at my house. His hair was gelled back in that style Quinn liked, the one that made him look like every other 30-something trying too hard. "Greg," Quinn said, drawing out my name like it tasted bad. "So glad you could finally join us." I was 3 minutes late. Traffic from the feedlot. A cattle truck had jackknifed on Highway 14, backed up traffic for 2 miles. But explanations didn't matter to Quinn. Everything was a performance, and I'd just committed the sin of making her wait. "Traffic," I said, pulling out my chair. The leather was the expensive kind, the kind that doesn't squeak. The whole restaurant was like that, designed to make you feel like your money was doing something important. The menu didn't have prices. That was how you knew it was expensive. "Always working," Kyle muttered. Not to me, just into the air between us, like I was a problem he was discussing with someone else. I ordered water. The waiter looked disappointed. He'd probably been hoping for a wine order, something to pad the bill. His name tag said Brandon. He was maybe 25, working his way through college probably, and he had that careful politeness waiters use when they can tell a table is about to go bad. "So," Quinn said, setting her wine glass down with a deliberate click, her second glass, maybe her third. "We wanted to talk to you about something important." Here it comes, I thought. "Kyle and I have been discussing the future," she continued. Her voice had that practiced cadence, like she was recording a video. Maybe she was. Her phone was face up on the table, screen glowing. I could see the Instagram app was open. "And we think it's time for some changes." "Changes," I repeated. My water arrived, ice cold. I took a sip and waited. "You're not getting any younger, Greg." She said it like she was stating a fact about the weather. 58 is, well, it's time to think about stepping back. Enjoying life. You've earned it. 58. Not old, not young. Somewhere in that middle distance where people started making assumptions about what you could and couldn't do. I could still work a 12-hour day at the feedlot, could still lift feed bags and check fences and handle the kind of physical labor that made younger men complain. But to Quinn, 58 meant obsolete. Kyle nodded, still not looking at me. His jaw was tight. Whatever speech they'd rehearsed, he wasn't comfortable with it. Good. He shouldn't be. "Stepping back from what?" I asked. I kept my voice level, curious, not defensive. Let her lay it all out. The company, the house. She waved her hand, dismissive. Rings on 3 fingers, all of them expensive. All of them purchased with money that had somehow flowed through Kyle's accounts. All of it. You've done your time. Let Kyle take over properly. He's been running operations for 2 years now. Running them into the ground, I didn't say. The feedlot's efficiency had dropped 12% since Kyle took his coordinator role. Our costs were up. Our margins were down. Feed waste was up. Cattle weight gains were down. 2 buyers had switched to competitors because our delivery schedules had become unreliable. But the board hadn't acted yet because he was my son, and I'd kept quiet. Kept quiet about a lot of things. And the house, Quinn continued, leaning forward. Her perfume was strong, something floral and expensive that probably came in a bottle the size of my thumb. We need more space. We're planning for a family. That house is perfect for raising kids. 3 bedrooms, all that land. You don't need all that space. You could get a condo, something easy to maintain. The house. My house. The one I built with my own money, on land I bought in 1994 when it was still cheap and nobody wanted to live that far out of town. The one with my name on every deed, every title, every piece of paper that mattered. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 40 acres of good grazing land with a creek running through the back third. I'd planted every tree in the windbreak, fixed every fence post, built the barn with my own hands and 2 buddies from the feedlot. Kids, I said. Don't you want grandchildren, Greg? Quinn's smile widened. Her teeth were very white. Professional whitening, probably. Or are you going to be selfish about that too? Selfish. The word hung in the air like smoke. Selfish because I'd worked for everything I had. Selfish because I wasn't handing it over to a son who'd never earned it, and a daughter-in-law who thought the world owed her something because she had an Instagram account. The waiter appeared with their steaks. 2 ribeyes, cooked medium rare, sides of loaded mashed potatoes and grilled asparagus. The plates were huge, the portions obscene. My plate wasn't there. They hadn't ordered for me, hadn't even asked what I wanted. I'm not stepping back, I said quietly. Kyle's jaw tightened. Quinn's smile froze, then cracked at the edges. Excuse me? I'm not stepping back from the company. I'm not giving you the house, and I'm not having this conversation. I started to stand. My chair scraped against the hardwood floor. Brandon the waiter took a step back, sensing danger. That's when Quinn picked up her wine glass. She didn't throw it in anger. It was calculated, performative. She stood up first, made sure the tables around us could see, made sure her phone was angled right. Then she launched the entire glass, wine and all, directly into my face. The liquid hit cold and sharp. Red wine, expensive Napa Cab, $60 a bottle. It splashed across my face, soaked into my collar, ran down my shirt in dark rivulets. The glass itself bounced off my chest and shattered on the floor, exploding into a dozen pieces that skittered across the hardwood. The restaurant went silent. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Even the kitchen noise seemed to dim. You selfish old man, Quinn hissed, loud enough for everyone to hear, loud enough for her phone to pick up clearly. We've given you everything and you can't even let us have a future. Kyle said nothing, did nothing, just stared at his phone like it was the most interesting thing in the world. I stood there, wine dripping from my chin, soaking into my shirt, pooling in the collar of my jacket. My face was wet. My chest was cold. I could smell the wine, sharp and fruity and expensive. And I counted to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then I pulled out my handkerchief, old habit, military training, and wiped my face clean. Slowly, deliberately. I didn't shake, didn't raise my voice, didn't give Quinn the reaction she wanted. Brandon, I said to the waiter, who was frozen 3 feet away, with his mouth half open. Could you get me a copy of your security footage from tonight? I'll pay for any trouble, and the damages. Quinn's smile flickered. Just for a second, just long enough for me to see the calculation behind it. I pulled out my phone, opened the camera app, and took 3 pictures. The wine-soaked tablecloth, red spreading across white like a spreading stain. The broken glass scattered across the floor. Quinn's face, still twisted in theatrical outrage, still performing for an audience that was now watching in complete silence. Then I opened my banking app and paid the full bill. $218, including a 20% tip for Brandon, who didn't deserve to lose money because my daughter-in-law was a nightmare. Thank you for dinner, I said to no one in particular. I walked out of the Cottonwood room with $60 wine drying on my shirt and a plan forming in my head like ice. Cold, clear, sharp enough to cut. They wanted the house. They'd never even seen the deed. I didn't go home that night. Home was a 3-bedroom ranch house on 40 acres, 10 miles outside Prairie Stock's main feedlot facility. I'd built it in 1998, paid it off in 2009, and transferred the title to a land trust in 2015 when Emily and I divorced. The trust was named after my grandfather, the Carlson Family Trust. Kyle had never asked about it. He'd just assumed that because he lived there, because I'd let him move in after the wedding, that it was somehow his. Assumption is an expensive habit. I drove to the feedlot instead. It was 9:30 on a Thursday night, and the facility was mostly empty except for the overnight crew checking water lines and monitoring the cattle. The feedlot sprawled across 200 acres of flat prairie, pens arranged in neat geometric rows, each one holding between 100 and 200 head depending on the time of year. Right now, we were at about 70% capacity, 1,500 head total. Not the biggest operation in the county, but respectable, professional. I parked near the main office, a squat metal building that smelled like dust and diesel and 40 years of ranch work. The sodium lights cast everything in harsh yellow. Shadows stretched long and sharp across the gravel parking lot. I let myself in with my key card. The electronic lock beeped once. Green light, access granted. The office was quiet. I liked it that way. No Kyle, no Quinn, no board members asking careful questions about family dynamics, while really wanting to know if I was going to let my son drive the company into bankruptcy. I sat down at my desk, actual desk, not the coordinator's cubicle Kyle used, and opened my laptop. The screen glowed blue in the dark office. Outside, I could hear cattle moving in their pens, the soft sounds of 1,500 animals settling in for the night. First things first. I pulled up the trust documents and verified the details I already knew by heart. The house was mine, the land was mine, the mineral rights, the water rights, the timber rights, all mine. Kyle was listed as an authorized resident with 0 ownership stake, 0 equity, 0 claim. That status could be revoked with 30 days' notice or immediately in cases of illegal activity, threat of harm, or breach of trust agreement. Throwing wine in someone's face in public probably didn't count as illegal activity, but what came next would justify everything. I opened a secure folder I'd been building for 3 months. Not because I'd been planning this, not exactly, but because I'd learned a long time ago, in the military, in business, in divorce court, that documentation was the difference between winning and losing. Evidence was everything. Memory was nothing. The folder contained screenshots of Quinn's influencer posts, carefully dated and archived, including 6 separate stories about how blessed she was to live in our beautiful ranch estate and how our family business was thriving. Our family business. She'd used those exact words. Never mind that she'd never set foot in the feedlot, never touched a piece of equipment, never attended a board meeting. In her version of reality, she was a ranch wife, a business partner, an integral part of an empire she'd married into. Bank statements showing Kyle's spending patterns over 18 months. $42,000 in discretionary purchases, furniture from stores in Denver, 3 hours away, electronics from online retailers, Quinn's business expenses that somehow always got coded to prairie stock accounts, photography equipment, ring lights, a laptop that cost more than most of our employees made in a month, fuel card records, downloaded from the company system before Kyle could think to delete them, $15,000 worth of fuel charges over 18 months. I'd cross-referenced them with GPS data from the company vehicles, stations 200 miles from any company site, convenience stores in towns where we had no business, no clients, no reason to be, gas purchases at 10 p.m. on Sundays when the feedlot was closed and Kyle was supposed to be off duty, text messages. I'd kept every one, screenshots, backed up to 3 different cloud services, including the ones where Kyle told me I was holding him back and needed to step aside before the board forces you out, including the ones where Quinn called me a bitter old man who can't accept that his time is over, including the ones where they discussed selling the house, my house, and using the money to finally start living. Corporate filings showing my actual ownership stake, 18%. Not controlling, but enough to block certain decisions, and enough to make life difficult if I decided to make it difficult. I spent 2 hours organizing everything into a clean timeline, document by document, receipt by receipt, screenshot by screenshot, every piece of evidence dated, labeled, cross-referenced. Then I drafted 3 documents. 1. A 30-day notice of revocation for Kyle's residency at the house. 2. A formal complaint to the Prairie Stock Board regarding misuse of company resources. 3. A listing agreement with a private real estate buyer I'd contacted 2 weeks ago. A rancher from Wyoming who'd been looking for property in the area and was willing to pay cash. I didn't sign anything yet. I just wanted to see the words on paper, wanted to know that when the time came, I'd be ready. The door opened behind me. I closed the laptop and turned. Marcus stood in the doorway. Night shift supervisor. 63. Been with Prairie Stock since before I bought my shares. He looked at me. At the laptop, at the wine stains still visible on my shirt. Heard about the restaurant, he said. Of course he had. Small town. Everyone knew everything. News travels fast, I said. Quinn posted about it. He showed me his phone. Her Instagram story. A photo of the wine-stained tablecloth with the caption, "When selfish people refuse to support family. Grateful for my husband who stands up for our future." Stood up. Past tense. Like he'd done something. Interesting perspective, I said. Marcus snorted. That woman's going to burn every bridge she touches. Probably. You going to let her? I looked at him. Marcus had 3 kids, all grown, all successful. None of them worked at Prairie Stock because Marcus believed in earning your place, not inheriting it. I'm going to make a few changes, I said carefully. Good. He poured himself coffee from the pot in the corner. About time. He left without another word. I sat there for another hour, staring at the documents on my screen. Then I opened my email and sent 3 messages. 1 to my lawyer. Need to discuss property transfer and corporate governance. Tomorrow morning, if possible. 1 to the Wyoming rancher. Ready to move forward. Can you close in 2 weeks? 1 to the security company that handled the house. Please send me instructions for remote access control to all smart locks and security systems. I hit send on all 3. Then I went to a hotel 20 miles away and slept better than I had in months. I met with my lawyer at 7:30 the next morning. Patricia Hines had been handling my corporate and property matters for 15 years. She was sharp as a blade and had a reputation for making problems disappear legally. Her office was in a converted Victorian house on Main Street, the kind of place that looked quaint on the outside, but was all business on the inside. Hardwood floors, law books lining the walls, a desk that had probably witnessed 1,000 negotiations, 1,000 settlements, 1,000 carefully executed plans. Patricia was already at her desk when I arrived, coffee in hand, reading glasses perched on her nose. She looked up when I walked in. "You look tired," she said. "Didn't sleep much." I saw Quinn's post. She gestured to her computer screen, which showed Quinn's Instagram feed. The wine-throwing incident had been turned into a 3-part story series, each one more dramatic than the last. "Defamation's tricky, but if you want to pursue it, not yet. First things first." I sat down across from her and laid out what I wanted to do. The house sale, the residency revocation, the corporate complaint. Everything I'd been planning in my head for the past 12 hours, now spoken out loud in the cold light of morning. Patricia listened without interrupting. She was good at that. Lawyers learn to listen first, talk second. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and tapped her pen against her desk. 3 taps. Always 3. A thinking habit I'd noticed over the years. "This is going to be ugly," she said finally. "I know. Kyle's going to fight it. Quinn's going to make a scene. The board's going to ask questions. Let them." She studied me for a long moment. Her eyes were sharp, assessing. 15 years of working together meant she could read me pretty well. She knew when I was bluffing, knew when I was serious. Right now, she could see I wasn't bluffing. "You're sure about this? Once we start, there's no walking it back, no changing your mind, no reconciliation." "I'm sure." "All right." She pulled up documents on her computer, fingers moving quickly across the keyboard. "The house sale is clean. The trust gives you full authority, and Kyle has no legal standing to contest it. The property is yours, free and clear. He's listed as an authorized resident, not an owner, not a tenant with rights, just a resident. That's a crucial distinction." She pulled up the trust document and turned the screen so I could see it. There it was, in black and white. The Carlson Family Trust, established 2015. Sole trustee, Gregory Adams. Authorized residents, Kyle Adams. Terms of residency, subject to revocation at trustee's discretion. I'll draft the notice of revocation today and have it couriered to the property by tomorrow morning. As for the corporate complaint, I'll need copies of all the documentation you mentioned. Every receipt, every statement, every screenshot. I'll send it this afternoon." "Good." She leaned forward, her expression serious. "And Greg, change your passwords, all of them. Bank accounts, email, everything. If Kyle has access to anything, cut it off now. Today, before he realizes what's happening." I hadn't thought of that, hadn't considered that Kyle might try to access my accounts, my information, my financial data. But Patricia was right. He'd been living in my house for 2 years. He probably knew more about my accounts than I thought. "He's been in your house," Patricia continued, reading my thoughts. "He's seen your mail, probably seen your computer, maybe even watched you enter passwords. People get careless in their own homes. They don't think about security when it's family." She was right. I'd been careless, comfortable, trusted Kyle because he was my son, and that trust had made me vulnerable. "I'll change everything," I said. "Do it now. Before you leave this office. Use my computer if you need to." I spent the next hour and a half resetting passwords on my phone and her computer. Bank accounts first, checking, savings, investment accounts. Then email, personal and corporate. The Prairie Stock corporate portal, my utility accounts for the house, electric, gas, water, internet. Even my credit card accounts and my medical records portal. Every password was different now. Complex, unguessable. I wrote them all down in a notebook I'd keep with me at all times and backed them up in a password manager Patricia recommended. When I finished, Patricia printed out the revocation notice and slid it across her desk. The paper was heavy, official-looking. Legal language in neat paragraphs. My signature line at the bottom. "This goes into effect at midnight tonight," she said. "After that, Kyle Adams is legally considered a trespasser on your property. He has 30 days to remove his personal belongings, after which you may dispose of them or place them in storage at his expense. I read through the document twice, made sure I understood every word, every clause, every consequence. Then I signed it. My signature looked steady, confident. No hesitation. "Now," Patricia said, pulling up another document on her screen, "let's talk about the smart locks." The security system at the house was top of the line. I'd installed it 3 years ago after a string of rural burglaries in the county. Smart locks on every door, front, back, garage, side entrance. Security cameras covering all entry points, all angles, all approaches. Motion sensors in the yard, a control panel in the master bedroom, remote access through an app on my phone. Kyle had never asked about it. He'd just used the codes I'd given him when he moved in. 6-digit codes that opened every door. He'd probably never even thought about who controlled the system, who had the master access, who could change everything with a few taps on a phone. Patricia walked me through the process. The security company had a web portal that let me manage everything remotely. At midnight tonight, the system would automatically revoke all existing access codes and generate new ones. Only I would have them. The cameras would still record. In fact, I could increase their recording quality and storage duration. But Kyle and Quinn wouldn't be able to view the feeds, couldn't disable the system, couldn't see what was being recorded. "What about their belongings?" I asked. "They have 30 days to remove them. The notice specifies that clearly. If they refuse to leave the property, if they attempt to break in, if they damage anything, you call the sheriff. They're trespassing on private property. The law is on your side. And if they try to claim squatters' rights, I've heard of cases where—" "Squatters' rights don't apply here," Patricia interrupted. "Kyle was an authorized resident, not a tenant. He never paid rent. He has no lease. He has no legal claim to the property. The trust documents are ironclad. I wrote them myself." I felt something release in my chest, a tension I hadn't realized I was carrying. This was really happening. This was real. "What about the house sale?" I asked. "I'll contact the Wyoming rancher today and start the escrow process. How quickly do you want to close?" 2 weeks, maybe less if possible. I'll make it happen. The buyer's paying cash, which speeds things up considerably. No mortgage approval, no bank delays. Just title search, inspection if he wants one, and closing documents. She made a note on her legal pad. Her handwriting was neat, precise. Everything about Patricia was precise. "One more thing," I said. "The corporate complaint. How do I submit it to the board?" "I'll draft a formal complaint letter with all the supporting documentation attached. Bank statements, fuel card records, GPS data, everything. The board will have to respond. They'll likely call an emergency meeting within a week." "Will Kyle be there?" "He'll have to be. He has the right to respond to the allegations. But Greg, the evidence is overwhelming. He's not going to be able to talk his way out of this." I nodded, felt a grim satisfaction settling in my bones. "Is there anything else you need from me?" Patricia asked. "Not right now." "Then go. Change those passwords. Secure everything. And Greg?" She looked at me over her reading glasses. "Don't talk to Kyle. Don't respond to his calls or texts. Don't engage with Quinn on social media. Everything you say can and will be used against you if this goes to court. Let me handle all communication." "Understood." I left Patricia's office at 9:15. The morning sun was bright, almost harsh. Main Street was waking up, shops opening, people walking to work, traffic picking up. Normal life, normal day. Except my life wasn't normal anymore. I'd just set in motion a series of events that would destroy my relationship with my son, would humiliate my daughter-in-law, would ripple through the community like a stone thrown into still water. And I felt fine about it. I drove to the feedlot. The familiar route. 10 miles of 2-lane highway, fields on either side, the occasional farmhouse set back from the road. The feedlot appeared on the horizon like it always did. Metal buildings, rows of pens, the water tower with the Prairie Stock logo painted on the side. Kyle's truck, was already in the parking lot. The leased F-250, black with chrome accents. The kind of truck that cost $800 a month, probably. The kind of truck you got when you wanted people to think you were doing better than you actually were. I parked 3 spaces away and went inside. The office was busy. Morning shift was in full swing, phones ringing, people moving between cubicles, the smell of coffee and paper and the faint background scent of cattle that never quite went away, no matter how much you cleaned. Kyle was in his cubicle, typing on his laptop. He didn't look up when I passed. Either he didn't notice me, or he was pretending not to. Either way, fine. I went to my office, closed the door, and sat down at my desk. Pulled out my phone and started making calls. First call, the Wyoming rancher. His name was Tom Peterson. We'd met at an agricultural conference 2 years ago, had stayed in touch occasionally. He'd mentioned he was looking for property in the area, good land, good water, good price. He answered on the second ring. Tom, it's Greg Adams. Greg, good to hear from you. What's up? That property I mentioned a few weeks ago. I'm ready to move forward if you're still interested. A pause. Then, the 40-acre parcel with the house? That's the one. Hell yes, I'm interested. Been looking for something like that for 3 years. What's the asking price? $420,000, cash deal. 2-week close if you can manage it. Another pause. Longer this time. I could almost hear him calculating, considering, running numbers in his head. That's fair, he said finally. More than fair, actually. I can do cash. I can close in 2 weeks. When can I see it? Next week. I'll have it vacant by then. Vacant? Someone living there now? They're moving out, I said. Which was true. They just didn't know it yet. All right, I'll get my lawyer on the paperwork today. This is great, Greg, really great. We talked for another 10 minutes about details, fences, water rights, the barn, the windbreak, all the things that mattered when you were buying ranch property. Tom was thorough, asked good questions, knew what to look for. He'd be a good steward of the land. When I hung up, I felt good, felt right. The property would be used well, used by someone who'd actually work it, not just live on it and pretend to be something they weren't. Second call, the mortgage company that held Kyle's truck lease. I didn't have direct access to his account, but I knew who did. Prairie Stock had a business relationship with Frontier Bank. They handled our operating line, our equipment financing, our corporate credit. And Frontier Bank owned the subsidiary that handled consumer leases. I called our account manager. Her name was Jennifer Hayes. We'd worked together for 5 years. Jennifer, Greg Adams. Greg, how are you? Good. Listen, I need to give you a heads up about something. There's going to be a board complaint filed against Kyle Adams for misuse of company resources. It involves company fuel cards, corporate accounts, potentially some other issues. Silence. Then, Kyle's your son, right? Yes. And you're filing a complaint against him? The board is. I'm providing the documentation. Another pause. How serious is this? $15,000 in fuel card misuse. $42,000 in improper expense coding. All documented. Jesus. Yeah, I wanted to let you know because he has a truck lease through your consumer division. If the board terminates his employment, that lease is going to be at risk. Appreciate the heads up. I could hear keyboard typing in the background. I'm flagging the account now. We'll review all associated accounts and financing. Thanks, Jennifer. Greg, I'm sorry this is happening. Don't be. He made his choices. I hung up and made the third call. The fuel card company. This one was trickier. I couldn't cancel Kyle's card directly. I wasn't the account administrator. But I could report suspected fraud, which would trigger an automatic investigation and suspension. I called the fraud hotline, explained the situation to the rep, provided Kyle's card number, dates of suspicious charges, locations that didn't match company business. The rep was professional, efficient, didn't ask unnecessary questions. We'll open an investigation immediately. The card will be suspended pending review. If fraud is confirmed, we'll pursue recovery of the funds. Understood. Thank you. I hung up and checked the time. 10:30. In 13.5 hours, Kyle and Quinn would lose access to the house. In 48 hours, Kyle's fuel card would be suspended. Within a week, his truck would probably be repossessed. The machinery was in motion now. All the pieces I'd carefully positioned over the past few weeks were starting to move, to connect, to create the outcome I wanted. I opened my laptop and started working through my normal tasks: feed inventory, delivery schedules, buyer contracts, the routine work of running a feedlot. I lost myself in spreadsheets and logistics, in the familiar rhythm of business. Around noon, my office door opened without a knock. Kyle stood in the doorway. "We need to talk," he said. I looked at him, really looked at him. My son, 34 years old, should have been in his prime, should have been building something, creating something, earning his place in the world. Instead, he was standing in my doorway with an entitled expression and an expensive haircut, demanding my time like I owed him something. "About what?" I asked. "About last night. About Quinn." "What about her?" "She's upset. She didn't mean—" "Yes, she did. She threw wine in my face in front of a restaurant full of people. That wasn't an accident. That was calculated." Kyle's jaw tightened. "She was emotional. You pushed her." I said, "No, that's not pushing. That's having boundaries. You're being unreasonable." "Am I?" I closed my laptop and folded my hands on my desk. "Let's talk about reasonable. Is it reasonable to live rent-free in someone else's house for 2 years? Is it reasonable to spend $40,000 on furniture and electronics using company accounts? Is it reasonable to use company fuel cards for personal trips?" Kyle's face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. The board's going to discuss it Monday." "You're lying." I pulled up the complaint document on my computer and turned the screen toward him. Let him see the first page, the header, his name, the allegations. Kyle stared at the screen. His hands were shaking. "You're really doing this," he said quietly. "You're actually trying to destroy me." "I'm not trying to destroy you. I'm holding you accountable. There's a difference. You're my father. And you're an adult. Start acting like one." Kyle turned and walked out. Didn't slam the door, didn't yell, just left. I watched him go and felt nothing. No guilt, no regret, just a kind of cold clarity. This was necessary. This was right. I went back to work. Kyle didn't talk to me for the rest of the day, didn't come by my office, didn't send emails. Just worked in his cubicle like everything was normal. Maybe he thought I was bluffing. Maybe he thought he could fix this somehow. He couldn't. At 5 o'clock, I left the feedlot and drove to a storage facility 30 miles outside town, far enough that no one would recognize me, far enough that word wouldn't get back to Kyle before I was ready. I'd rented a climate-controlled unit 2 days ago, 10 by 20 feet, big enough for furniture. The facility was modern, clean, well-lit. Electronic gates, security cameras, individual alarm codes for each unit. The manager had asked what I was storing. "Furniture," I'd said. "Family situation." She'd nodded knowingly. Divorce probably, she was thinking. Or someone passing away and the family couldn't decide what to do with the belongings. She'd seen it 100 times. She had no idea. The moving truck arrived at 6. I'd hired them through a company 3 counties over, paid cash, told them exactly what to take, and gave them a list typed on plain paper with no letterhead. 3 guys got out, professional, experienced. They'd done this before, moving things quietly, quickly, without asking questions. "You the homeowner?" the lead guy asked. He was maybe 40, weathered face, strong hands. "Yes." "We clear to enter? No one's going to show up and cause problems?" "House is empty right now. You've got 2 hours, maybe 3 before anyone comes home." "Works for us." I gave them the list. The leather couch in the living room, mine, purchased in 2016, receipt in my files. The dining table and 6 chairs, mine, custom made by a local woodworker in 2017. The bedroom set in the master, mine, bought from a furniture store in Denver. The flat-screen TVs in the living room and bedroom, mine, both purchased on company accounts for legitimate business use, documentation saved. The kitchen appliances beyond the basic stove and refrigerator, mine, upgraded at my expense. The office furniture in the spare bedroom I'd used as a study, mine, all of it. Everything I'd paid for, everything I had receipts for, everything I could prove was mine. The movers worked fast and professional, in and out of the house like a surgical team. Wrap, load, secure. Wrap, load, secure. They had moving blankets, straps, dollies. They knew how to protect furniture, how to load a truck efficiently. I watched from my truck parked down the road, watched through binoculars, watched the lights come on inside as they worked, watched pieces of furniture appear at the door, get carried to the truck, disappear inside. By 8 o'clock, the house was empty except for the cheap furniture Kyle and Quinn had bought themselves. The pressed wood bookshelf from Target, the futon in the spare room, some decorative items that looked expensive but weren't, fake plants, printed canvases, throw pillows from Home Goods. I met the movers at the storage facility, watched them unload everything into the climate-controlled unit, arranged it carefully so nothing would get damaged, the couch along one wall, the dining table disassembled and stacked, the bedroom set wrapped in blankets. When they finished, the lead guy handed me a receipt. "Clean job," he said. "No drama. That's how we like it." I paid them the balance, $1,500 cash, plus a $300 tip, split 3 ways. "Appreciate your discretion," I said. "Always," he replied. "Good luck with whatever this is." They drove away. I locked the storage unit, set the alarm code, drove back toward town. But I didn't go to the feedlot, didn't go to a hotel yet. Instead, I drove to the house one more time, pulled up the driveway at 9:15, parked in my usual spot, let myself in with my key. The house was quiet, empty. The living room echoed without the couch and TV. The dining room looked like a stage set missing its props. The kitchen felt sterile without the small appliances, the coffee maker, the toaster, the stand mixer. I did a final walkthrough, checked every room, every closet, made sure nothing important was left behind. In the master bedroom, the empty wall space where the bed had been looked stark. The carpet showed indentations where the frame had pressed for 2 years. The nightstands were gone. The dresser was gone. Only the built-in closet remained, filled with Kyle's clothes. I opened the closet, looked at his shirts hanging in neat rows, his pants folded on the shelves, his shoes lined up on the floor. A lifetime of clothing, a lifetime of living in my house, wearing clothes bought with money he hadn't earned. I closed the closet and walked out. In the living room, I stopped at the thermostat, turned it down to 55 degrees. Not enough to freeze the pipes, but cold enough to be uncomfortable. Let them pay to heat it back up, if they could even get inside. I checked the security system panel. Everything was armed, cameras recording, motion sensors active. At midnight, the access codes would change automatically. Kyle and Quinn would be locked out. I should have felt guilty, should have felt something. This was my son's home, even if it wasn't legally his. This was where he lived, where he slept, where he kept his belongings. But I didn't feel guilty, felt satisfied instead, felt the cold clarity of a plan being executed perfectly. I locked the door behind me and drove to a hotel room 20 miles away. Different town, different county, somewhere Kyle wouldn't think to look. The hotel was a mid-range chain, clean but generic, the kind of place business travelers stayed when they needed a bed and a shower and nothing else. I checked in under my name, no point hiding, and paid for a week in advance. The room was exactly what I expected. Queen bed, desk, TV, bathroom, window overlooking the parking lot. Everything I needed and nothing I didn't. I ordered room service, burger and fries, nothing fancy. Ate while watching the local news, weather, sports, a story about the county fair next month. Then I pulled out my laptop and checked Quinn's Instagram. She'd posted again, multiple times since this morning. The posts told a story, carefully curated for maximum sympathy. First post, a photo of the wine-stained tablecloth from last night. Caption, when selfish people refuse to support family. Grateful for my husband who stands up for our future. Posted at 10 p.m. last night, shortly after they'd left the restaurant. Second post, a video of Quinn in the car, crying, mascara running, Kyle driving. Caption, heartbroken. Family shouldn't treat family this way. Posted at 11 p.m. Third post, a photo of her and Kyle in their living room this morning, both looking sad. Caption, standing strong together. We won't let toxic people destroy us. Posted at 9 a.m., 73,000 followers, thousands of likes, hundreds of comments, mostly supportive. Stay strong, Queen. You deserve better. Family can be the worst. But some comments were starting to question the narrative. Why were you living in his house? Whose business is it really? This feels like there's more to the story. I took screenshots of everything, every post, every comment, every interaction, added them all to my evidence folder. Then I opened the security feed from the house. Kyle and Quinn had gotten home around 9:30. I watched the footage, watched them pull into the driveway, watched them walk to the front door, watched Quinn stop and look around like something felt wrong. They opened the door. The interior camera caught their faces as they stepped inside. Quinn's expression changed instantly, confusion, then shock, then rage. The audio was crystal clear. Where's the couch? Her voice sharp and rising. Kyle walked into the living room, stood in the empty space where the TV had been. Greg took it, he said finally. His voice was flat, defeated. He took everything. He can't do that. This is our house. Kyle turned to look at her. It's his house. What? The deed's in his name. It always has been. I watched Quinn's face on camera, watched the realization hit her, watched her go white, then red, then purple. You told me, she started. I thought he'd give it to us. Eventually. I thought. You thought, Quinn screamed. You said this was our house. You said we were building our future here. You lied to me. I didn't lie. You lied. About the house, about the business, about everything. Kyle's phone rang. He looked at the screen, didn't answer. Who is it? Quinn demanded. My dad. Answer it. No. Quinn grabbed his phone and answered it herself. Greg? Yeah, it's me. What the hell did you do to our house? I couldn't hear my own voice on the recording, but I could imagine what I'd said. Calm, matter of fact, explaining that I'd removed my property from my house. Quinn's face got redder. You can't do this! We live here! We have rights! More silence on her end. Then, we'll sue you. We'll take everything. You'll regret this. She threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor. What did he say? Kyle asked quietly. He said it's his property, and he can do whatever he wants with it. He said we're trespassing. Quinn's voice was shaking. He said the locks are changing at midnight, and if we're still here tomorrow, he'll call the cops. Kyle sat down on the cheap futon, put his head in his hands. This can't be happening, he said. Well, it is happening, Quinn screamed, because you lied to me about owning this house. I didn't lie. I just assumed. You assumed. You assumed. We've been planning our lives around this place. I've been posting about it. I've been building my brand around being a ranch wife living in a beautiful estate. I know. And it was all fake, all of it, because you didn't actually own anything. Kyle didn't respond. Quinn paced back and forth. We need to call a lawyer, right now, tonight. It's 9:30. I don't care. Call someone. Quinn, he's within his rights. The house is his, legally. Then we'll find another angle. We'll claim I don't know, we'll claim something. Tenants' rights, squatters' rights, something. We're not tenants. We don't pay rent. Exactly. We've been living here for free, doing improvements, maintaining the property. What improvements? What maintenance? Quinn stopped pacing, stared at him. Are you seriously not going to fight this? I don't know how to fight it, Kyle said quietly. He's my father. He owns the house. He's within his rights. He's destroying us. He's holding us accountable. Quinn's expression changed. Are you taking his side? I'm not taking anyone's side. You're weak. You're pathetic. You can't even stand up to your own father. Kyle stood up. I'm going to bed. We don't have a bed. He took the bed. Then I'm sleeping on the couch. We don't have a couch either. Kyle walked toward the spare room where the futon was. Quinn followed, still yelling. The camera couldn't see them anymore, but I could hear her voice echoing through the house. I turned off the feed, closed my laptop, lay back on the hotel bed and stared at the ceiling. In 2.5 hours, the locks would change. Kyle and Quinn would be locked out of what they thought was their home, and tomorrow morning they'd get the official notice that they had 30 days to remove their belongings and vacate the property permanently. This was really happening, and I felt fine about it. Better than fine. I felt vindicated. Felt like I was finally taking control of a situation that had spiraled out of my hands months ago. I set an alarm for midnight. Wanted to see the exact moment the locks changed. Wanted to see Kyle and Quinn realize they'd lost. The courier arrived at 7:03. I watched on the security feed as he knocked on the door. Kyle answered in his boxers and a t-shirt, hair sticking up. The courier handed him the envelope. Kyle signed without reading. I watched him close the door and tear it open. Watched him read. Watched his face change. He tried the front door first, pulled the handle, punched in the old code. Nothing happened. He tried the back door, the garage, the side entrance, all locked. Quinn appeared behind him, phone in hand, already recording. Her body language said everything. Wild gestures, pointing at the camera, screaming at Kyle. Kyle pulled out his phone and called me. I let it ring twice, then answered. Greg. His voice was tight. What the hell is this? A revocation of residency. It's all in the notice. You locked us out of our house. My house. You have 30 days to remove your belongings. You can't do this. I already did. Silence. Then, we'll sue you. For what? Exercising my legal rights? I paused. Go ahead. My lawyer's ready. This is because of the restaurant, isn't it? This is because you've been living rent-free for 2 years, running up expenses on my accounts, and treating me like I'm the problem. My voice stayed calm. You wanted me to step aside. I'm stepping aside from you. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my concern. Dad. I hung up. Quinn called 2 minutes later. I didn't answer. She called 3 more times. On the 4th, she left a voicemail that was mostly screaming. I saved it, added it to the folder. At 8:30, Patricia called. The board received your complaint. They've scheduled an emergency meeting for Monday morning. Good. Kyle's going to fight this. I have the receipts. Gas stations 200 miles from any company site. Restaurants, shopping centers, all personal use. Then we'll be fine. But Greg, be prepared for this to get messy. Let her. I could hear Patricia's smile through the phone. All right, see you Monday. I checked Quinn's social media. She'd posted a new video. Crying. Mascara running. Caption. Heartbroken. Family betrayal. Please respect our privacy. The comments were split. Half supportive, half skeptical. I screenshotted everything. Then I called the Wyoming rancher. We're clear to close in 10 days. I'll have the property vacant by then. Appreciate it. Been looking for a place like this for years. It's a good property, I said. And it was. But I didn't need it anymore. At noon, I drove to the feedlot. Kyle's truck was gone. The leasing company had already flagged the account. I went to my office and got back to work. The weekend passed quietly. Kyle tried calling 6 more times. I didn't answer. Quinn posted 4 more videos, each escalating in drama. The latest one. Homelessness isn't a joke, filmed from a hotel room they could afford because Quinn's influencer income was still coming in. For now. Monday morning, I put on my Navy suit and drove to Prairie Stock. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for 9. I arrived at 8:45. The conference room was already full. 7 board members, 2 alternates, our corporate attorney, and Kyle at the far end, looking like he hadn't slept in days. The chairman, Frank Whitmore, called the meeting to order at 9 sharp. Frank was 71, a rancher who'd been with Prairie Stock since the beginning. He didn't waste time. "We're here to discuss Gregory Adams' complaint regarding misuse of company resources," Frank said, looking at Kyle. "Kyle, you've seen the documentation. Want to respond?" Kyle cleared his throat. "These allegations are exaggerated. The fuel card was for company business. Sometimes I had to make personal stops." 200 miles off route, I said quietly. "To a shopping mall?" Kyle's jaw tightened. "I was picking up supplies." "What supplies?" He didn't answer. Frank looked at the documents Patricia had submitted. Bank statements, fuel logs, GPS records, all there in black and white. "Kyle, this is $15,000 over 18 months. That's not personal stops. That's systematic misuse." "My father's trying to push me out," Kyle said, voice rising. "He's always resented me working here." "This is documentation," Frank interrupted. "Do you have documentation that disputes it?" Silence. "Then here's what's going to happen. Effective immediately, your fuel card is revoked. You'll submit expense reports like everyone else. If we find more discrepancies, you're done. Understood?" Kyle stared at the table. "Understood?" Frank repeated. "Yes," Kyle muttered. "Good. Now get out. The board needs to discuss this privately." Kyle stood, shot me a look that could strip paint, and walked out. Frank turned to me. "Greg, this isn't sustainable. You know that, right?" "I know. If he keeps this up, we'll have to let him go." "I'm not asking you to keep him. I'm asking you to enforce the same standards for everyone." Frank nodded slowly. "Fair enough." The meeting continued for another hour. By the end, the board had voted to implement stricter oversight on all coordinator positions. Kyle wasn't singled out by name, but everyone knew. I left at 10:30 and drove to Patricia's office. "How'd it go?" she asked. "Fuel card's revoked. He's on thin ice." "Good. Let's talk about the house sale." The paperwork was ready. Escrow would close in 8 days. After fees and taxes, I'd clear $368,000. "What do you want to do with the money?" Patricia asked. I'd been thinking about that. "Set up a grant for young farmers, someone trying to get started who needs capital." Patricia raised an eyebrow. "You're giving it away?" "I'm investing it in someone who'll use it right." She smiled. "That's going to drive Quinn insane." "I know." We spent the next hour drafting the grant structure. It would be administered through a local ag foundation, awarded annually, named after my grandfather, not my son. When I left, I felt lighter than I had in years. Wednesday morning, Kyle's truck was repossessed from the feedlot parking lot. Marcus called with the details. Tow truck showed up at 7:30. Kyle came running out when he heard the noise. Driver told him the lease was in default. They took it anyway. "He call anyone?" "Yeah, screamed at someone for 10 minutes. Then Quinn showed up in an Uber, and they left." That afternoon, Quinn posted another video. "When your family sabotages your life." She was crying. Real tears this time. "We've lost everything. Our home. Our vehicle. All because one man decided he'd rather destroy his own son than let him succeed." The comments were more skeptical now. "Why didn't you have your own place? How do you lose a truck you're leasing? This doesn't add up." But Quinn's followers were loyal. 73,000 people who believed her version of reality. I made a call to a lawyer who specialized in influencer contracts. His name was David Brennan. I explained the situation, Quinn claiming to be part of a family business she had no stake in, using company property in her content without authorization, potentially violating brand partnership agreements by misrepresenting her circumstances. "Send me everything you have," David said. If she's monetizing content based on false claims, her brand partners need to know. I sent him the folder, every screenshot, every post where Quinn claimed ownership of things that weren't hers. By Friday, 3 of Quinn's brand partnerships had sent her cease and desist letters. Her engagement dropped overnight as companies distanced themselves. Her Instagram stories became increasingly frantic, being attacked for telling my truth. Powerful people trying to silence me. I didn't respond, didn't need to. The documentation spoke for itself. Saturday morning, I got a call from the escrow company. The house sale was complete. $420,000 minus fees had been transferred to my account. I called Patricia immediately. The sale went through. Congratulations. Ready to set up that grant? Yes. We spent 2 hours finalizing the structure. The Carlson Family Agricultural Grant would provide $25,000 annually to a young farmer in the county. Applications would open next month. The first payment would come from the house sale proceeds. The rest would go into an investment account to fund future years. Kyle would never see a penny. That evening, I drove past the house one last time. The Wyoming rancher's truck was already in the driveway. New locks, new life. The property would be put to good use. I didn't feel sad, didn't feel guilty, just felt done. The board called another meeting 2 weeks later. Kyle had submitted an expense report for business travel that didn't match any company activity. Frank was done being patient. Kyle, this is your second violation in 3 weeks. We're terminating your position effective immediately. Kyle stood up. You can't do this. Your father has nothing to do with this, Frank said coldly. You violated company policy, repeatedly. We have documentation. You're done. Kyle looked at me. I looked back, said nothing. You're going to regret this, Kyle said. Both of you. Threatening board members? Frank raised an eyebrow. That's not helping your case. Security will escort you out. 2 security guards appeared. Kyle left without another word. I stayed for the rest of the meeting. The board discussed hiring a new operations coordinator, someone with actual experience, someone who'd earned their position. My phone buzzed during the meeting. A text from an unknown number. You've destroyed your own son. Hope you're proud. I deleted it. After the meeting, Frank pulled me aside. Sorry it came to this, Greg. Don't be. He made his choices. What are you going to do now? I thought about that. Keep working. Maybe buy another few shares if any come available. Frank smiled. We'd be glad to have you more involved. I drove back to my hotel room. I'd been living there for 3 weeks now, and it suited me fine. No maintenance, no memories, just a clean room and a place to sleep. Quinn's Instagram had gone quiet. Only 2 posts in the last week. Her follower count was dropping. Brand partnerships were gone. The wealthy ranch wife persona had collapsed under the weight of reality. I didn't gloat, didn't celebrate, just noted it and moved on. Friday afternoon, I got a call from Emily, my ex-wife. We hadn't spoken in months. Greg. Emily. I heard about Kyle. I figured you would. He called me, said you destroyed his life. What do you think? She was quiet for a moment. I think he destroyed it himself. I think you finally stopped enabling him. That's about right. For what it's worth, I'm not surprised, and I'm not taking sides. I don't need you to. Good, because Kyle's an adult. He made his choices. And Quinn... She paused. Quinn was always going to be a problem. We talked for another 10 minutes. Nothing deep. Just 2 people who used to be married, acknowledging that their son had turned into someone neither of them recognized. When we hung up, I felt something shift. Not closure exactly. Just clarity. I'd done what I had to do. No more, no less. The Prairie County Livestock Show was in 3 weeks. It was the biggest event of the year. Ranchers, farmers, equipment dealers, buyers from across the region. Prairie Stock always had a booth, always made a presentation about our operation, our efficiency numbers, our commitment to quality. This year, I was going to make it memorable. I spent 2 weeks preparing. Not a sales pitch, not a corporate presentation. Something else entirely. I contacted the show organizers and requested a 30-minute slot in the main pavilion. They agreed. Prairie Stock was a major sponsor. They didn't ask questions. I hired an audio-visual company to set up a projector and screen. Professional quality, big enough for the entire pavilion to see. Then I built the presentation. Screenshots of Quinn's Instagram posts, the ones claiming ownership of our family business, the ones showing off our beautiful ranch estate, the ones promoting products using company property as backdrop, bank statements showing Kyle's personal purchases on company accounts, fuel card records showing charges hundreds of miles from any company location, GPS data proving the misuse, the board complaint, the termination letter, the documentation that proved everything, and finally, the grant announcement. The Carlson Family Agricultural Grant, funded by the proceeds from selling the house Kyle thought was his. I didn't include commentary. Didn't need to. The documents spoke for themselves. The day before the show, I got a call from Kyle. I heard you're presenting at the livestock show. That's right. What are you presenting? You'll see. Dad, please. Don't do this. We can work this out. No, we can't. Quinn's sorry. She didn't mean... Yes, she did. And so did you. We'll leave town. We'll disappear. Just don't... It's already done, Kyle. The presentation's loaded. The slot's booked. Silence. Then, I'll be there. I figured you would. He hung up. That evening, I drove to the showgrounds early. The pavilion was massive, 200 feet long, high ceilings, concrete floors that smelled like livestock and sawdust. Rows of booths lined the walls. The Prairie Stock booth was in the prime location, right near the main stage. The AV company had set up the projector and screen. I tested it twice. Everything worked perfectly. I went back to my hotel and slept like a stone. The livestock show opened at 8 in the morning. By 9, the pavilion was packed. Ranchers in pressed shirts and new boots. Farmers in work clothes and caps with company logos. Buyers in suits, notepads in hand. 500 people, maybe more. Local news was there. A crew from the Ag Network. This was the event of the season. My presentation was scheduled for 11. At 10:30, I saw Kyle and Quinn enter the pavilion. Kyle looked hollow. Quinn looked furious. They stood near the back, trying to blend in. I checked the presentation one more time. Everything was ready. At 11, the show organizer introduced me. Gregory Adams, minority shareholder and founding member of Prairie Stock LLC, will be presenting on corporate governance and accountability in family businesses. I walked to the podium, adjusted the microphone, looked out at the crowd. Good morning. I'm going to keep this brief. I pressed the remote. The first slide appeared, a screenshot of Quinn's Instagram. Blessed to be part of our family business, Prairie Stock LLC. This was posted by my daughter-in-law 6 months ago. She's never worked for Prairie Stock, never attended a board meeting, never owned a single share. Murmurs in the crowd. Next slide. Bank statements. Kyle's personal purchases coded to company accounts. My son, Kyle Adams, was terminated from Prairie Stock 2 weeks ago for systematic misuse of company resources. Over 18 months, he charged $42,000 in personal expenses to corporate accounts. The murmurs got louder. Next slide. Fuel card records with GPS data. Additionally, he misused company fuel cards to the tune of $15,000. Gas stations 200 miles from any company location, restaurants, shopping centers, all personal use. I could see Kyle pushing through the crowd. Quinn was screaming something. Security guards moved to intercept them. Next slide. The board complaint and termination letter. The Prairie Stock Board of Directors investigated and terminated Kyle Adams' employment. This is the documentation. Kyle reached the front. You can't do this. This is slander. It's not slander if it's true, I said calmly. And it's all documented. I pressed the remote again. Final slide. The house Kyle and Quinn Adams were living in was mine, not theirs. I sold it 2 weeks ago for $420,000. The proceeds have been used to establish the Carlson Family Agricultural Grant, which will provide $25,000 annually to young farmers in this county. The crowd erupted, some in applause, some in shocked silence. The news cameras were filming everything. Kyle lunged forward. You miserable old... He slipped on the sawdust-covered floor, went down hard, sprawled out in front of 500 people and 3 news cameras. Quinn rushed to help him up, but her heel caught in the sawdust too. She stumbled, phone flying out of her hand, clattering across the concrete. I stood at the podium and watched. Kyle got to his feet, face red with humiliation and rage. Quinn retrieved her phone, screen cracked, and grabbed his arm. This isn't over, Kyle spat. I pulled out my tablet, opened the Prairie Stock corporate portal. My shareholding was displayed on screen. I'd quietly purchased additional shares over the past 2 weeks from struggling minority holders. 30%, blocking power, enough to veto major decisions. I pressed one button. Execute transfer. On the screen behind me, visible to everyone, Kyle's digital access credentials were revoked in real time. His email, his corporate login, his security badge. The system flashed red. Access denied. I looked at Kyle, at Quinn, at 500 witnesses and 3 news cameras. You threw wine. I kept receipts. Kyle's security badge, the one still clipped to his belt from habit, beeped once. The LED went dark. Quinn's phone buzzed. Her Instagram account notification, brand partnership agreement terminated, contract violation. The crowd was silent. I stepped away from the podium, walked past Kyle and Quinn without another word. Walked out of the pavilion into the bright prairie sunshine. Behind me, I heard the show organizer's voice over the speakers. Let's give a round of applause to Gregory Adams of Prairie Stock LLC. The applause started, grew louder, echoed through the pavilion. I didn't look back.